Liam Smith versus Chris Eubank to the rematch. What do we think about this fight? How do we feel about this one? First, I have to say, when it comes to rematches, statistics show in sports more times than not, whoever wins the first fight generally wins the second fight. It's not always the case, but more times than not. Statistics does matter, and it doesn't matter at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So let's get into it, man. Let's go back to the fight. Look, we're just having a conversation. We're not really breaking down too much. We're just having a conversation, me and you know. And when we go back to the last fight, boom, the first round goes off, and not a whole lot of action was happening. Eubank was getting behind his jab early. Smith bringing the pressure, a few jabs to the body, but Smith more pressure than anything. Nice head movement from Smith as well, too. But a winning round for Chris Eubank, I would say, just because he threw a little bit more punches. Second round goes off, and man, Eubank's speed, I felt like, was on display, right? He's dodging and weaving shots, keeping the distance. Liam Smith is still working to break the distance, but he's getting closer to breaking that gap, just a little bit closer and closer, but not a whole lot of action again from either man in the second round. Third round goes off. Eubank starts to let his hands go a little bit more, but then he starts watching his work. There was a sequence where he let off like 3 uppercuts back to back to back, but he's standing there and watching his work. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, man, what are you doing? Now, going into the fourth round, I said to myself, okay, unless things heat up, this is probably what it's going to look like the full fight. Then the fourth round happened. The rounds before, Eubank was moving nicely, moving laterally, keeping the fight off of the ropes, right? Trying to stay in the center of the ring as much as he could. But in the fourth round, he had his hands dropping down a little lower than usual and got himself in a spot where, he had no business doing and being in. Smith didn't change anything. He was just continuing to apply the pressure, continuing to get closer and just waiting for the right shot and right time to let his hands go. Well, it happened. He caught Chris Eubank in the corner, and the man just went crazy. Man just let off every single shot in the book that he could and didn't waste any time. He let off like 8, 9 shots back to back to back to back to back to back. And one of those shots connected. Next thing you know, Chris Eubank is on the ground. Chris Eubank gets back up and he gets dropped again. And it was over with. And I was like, man, what just happened, bro? Like, Eubank, who generally has a good chin, got stopped in the fourth round. And the crazy part to me was Liam Smith didn't do a whole lot throughout the fight. But what he did do was capitalize on the opening, and he made it count. I thought Eubank, man, I thought he took Liam Smith for granted. He overlooked him. Eubank was up on the cards until he wasn't. And I thought that was the biggest difference for me personally was, man, you can't be admiring your work in the fourth round like you're dominating the fight. Yeah, you were outboxing him, I would say, but there was still a lot of rounds to go. And you cannot take Liam Smith for granted. The man is tough. As long as he's in the fight, you best believe he's going to come forward. And when he lets his hands go, if you are not on your P's and Q's and your head movement isn't sharp, and you can't duck and weave and you can't slip and move, you're going to face his wrath of onslaught, and you may not be able to walk out of that fight on your feet, as we saw in this fight. The question I always ask about rematches is, what's going to change? I don't see much change in Liam Smith's corner, right? Aside from the fact that if I beat you before, I can beat you again. So, the confidence is good. Confidence is through the roof. He has beat Chris Eubank before, and he knows he can do it again. He probably feels like Chris Eubank can't manage or match his power. I don't know. I would be feeling the same way if I knocked you out. I would be feeling the same way if I'm Liam Smith. There have been some changes in Chris Eubanks' corner. He's not with Captain Hook Roy Jones Jr. anymore. He's with Bomac, the same trainer as Terrence Bud Crawford. So that makes things a little bit more intriguing to me. Not so much about the skill per se, right? Because not a whole lot is going to really stick with you over one training camp, right? And the other thing is he going to revert back to his old ways when certain things may not be working, or is he going to trust his training? That's part of it as well, too. But for me, man, the biggest change, which I think is good for him, is because he gets to be around the stable of those guys who their mentality is a little bit different. And I think the mentality is going to be the thing that helps Chris Eubank and can make a difference. And from the videos that I've seen, man, he's calmed down quite a bit. He looks way more focused, way more dialed in and locked in than I've seen him in his last fight. I'm all for these guys selling the fights. Yo, get your tickets up, right? Do what you got to do within reason. Don't be disrespectful, but do what you got to do to sell the tickets. And I felt like all the stuff that he was doing in the first fight, man, away from the ring, yo, it was a lot. I question not if he was training hard for this fight, but if he really believed that Liam Smith could be him. Every person has to know that you can lose a fight. It doesn't mean you go in thinking that you're going to lose, but you cannot go into a fight thinking that your opponent, there's no way they can beat you. It's possible. And oftentimes we do it in the sport of track and field all the time. You go into certain meets, you go into certain rings, and you overlook your opponent, and they often surprise you. It looks like he is way more dialed in than I've seen him before. So this is going to be more interesting than the first fight, I think. Both guys can't afford another loss in the grand scheme of things. Someone will get pushed through and someone will fall back down a few spots. So who wins? You know, the statistics and the facts say go with Liam Smith to win the fight, and probably by stoppage or some form of split or mixed decision. Smith is going to come forward, man, use feints and try and close the gap. And when he is in range, as he did in his last fight, he is going to let his hands go. But in the first few rounds, he didn't throw a whole lot. He was waiting for the right moment, and he waited until it was perfect in order to let his hands go. But I also feel as if, as I said, Eubank took Smith for granted. I don't think he is going to do that in the second fight because there was a lot more at stake. And I felt like since he took him for granted, he wasn't as sharp and not as locked in as he should have been. And if he does that mess again, he's going to get stopped again. He's going to lose again. I'm also interested to see how he looks. He took a whole lot of Roy Jones's mannerisms. So I'm curious to see if he switches anything and what exactly the game plan is. I still think he can outbox Liam Smith and win on the cards. But will he come in ego-filled trying to prove that he can stop Liam Smith? And I think if he goes in and tries to get into a firefight with Liam Smith, the same outcome is going to come. But if he goes in, trust his training, trust his boxing ability, use his athleticism, and keep this fight off the rope, I think he has a great chance of winning this fight, as I still thought in the last fight. If I had to pick, man, you know, even though Chris Eubank lost the fight, so part of me still leans 51% towards Chris Eubank and 49% towards Liam Smith. But as I said, either man cannot lose a fight. And honestly, this fight really could go either way. But I think we're going to get a much better showing from Chris Eubank in the second fight than we definitely did in the first fight. So it's going to be interesting, man. So let me know your thoughts. Who do you have winning this one? Let me know in the comment section below. If you would like to support the channel, there's a couple ways you can do so. You can like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you would like to support by way of donation, you can find options on the description below. Also, my Cash App handle will be on screen as well. Any amount goes towards the growth of this channel. It will be greatly, greatly appreciated. We got a membership section going on the channel. Don't always get to do all the suggested videos you guys suggest in the comment section below. But if you become a member, those suggested videos rise to the top, and I will do my best to get those done for you. Or if you would like to become a member, just to support the channel, that would be greatly, greatly appreciated as well. Shout out to everybody that continues to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate each of you. So with all that being said, if you've been watching the video this time, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.